Hello, and welcome to the Geopolitics Explained podcast. Last week, we came to the conclusion that geopolitics is a non-cooperative game. Cooperation exists when the collective payoff is larger than any individual payoff. Over time, these collective payoffs can erode, and cooperation can easily return to a natural environment of non-cooperation. With this key point established, we can now explore an area in connection to cooperation, and that is how the availability of information plays a role in the current environment of geopolitics. The first concept that we'll explore in relation to information is the difference between perfect and imperfect information. Perfect information occurs in a game when every player knows every other player's previous moves. Perfect information is seen in a game such as chess. In geopolitics, in the short term, we typically operate in an environment of imperfect information. This is an environment where players can't observe all previous moves made by other players. To compare this to a real-world example, imperfect information is seen in the game of poker. As we discussed last week, geopolitics is structurally non-cooperative, but when it comes to information, geopolitics is also imperfect. But despite geopolitics operating in an environment where players can't observe all previous moves made by other nations, this doesn't stop nations from attempting to gain and control information. Now, why does this occur? Well, this occurs because controlling information allows geopolitical actors to paint a better picture of the geopolitical landscape. It also allows them to better shield their own intentions. We often see secret negotiations, hidden military capabilities, shielded intentions, and domestic pressures are key strategies that are pursued by many nations around the world. Ultimately, it's many of these characteristics that contributes to geopolitics being non-cooperative. In relation to the control of information, we also see intelligence services around the world attempt to covertly translate imperfect information into as close to perfect information as possible. Intelligence services are vital because nations can also attempt to mislead each other. Military drills, sanctions, and speeches can provide a geopolitical adversary with some information, but equally, these strategies can also be used to mislead. This highlights that in an environment of imperfect information, it can be known that a nation has made a move, but the specifics could be unknown. Also, moves can be made completely in secret. Any player with greater control of information could also have an awareness of the potential payoffs that other nations could receive for potential moves that they could make. This introduces another idea, that being complete information. Complete information in a situation or game is when all players have knowledge about the other players. This knowledge includes concepts that we've previously discussed, mainly in the mathematics episode, such as utility, risk aversion, potential payoffs, and potential strategies that each player could choose. If a nation knows this about other players, then they can plan and alter their own strategies based on this information. On the flip side, incomplete information describes a game where players don't have full information about the other players. Complete information in geopolitics is unrealistic, but some states have more complete information than others. This is one such aspect that contributes to the power of nations that is often not discussed. As a result of information contributing to power imbalances, we often see many nations pursue complete information in geopolitics. Geopolitics is a sequential game. One nation makes a move, and other nations affected by this move respond in turn. In making any response, having more complete information puts a nation at a great advantage. hence why geopolitical nations undertake this pursuit. Geopolitics is also a Bayesian game. In Bayesian games, players update their beliefs based on the strategies of others. As a result, every geopolitical move that is revealed is a strategy, but it also provides other nations with more complete information. This is why we often see signalling, bluffing, and strategic ambiguity in geopolitics. It's because this would limit the amount of information that other nations would have. Also, as I've alluded to, any rival or enemy knowing the strategy that a nation could pursue will allow this rival to counter any moves before a nation even plays its original move. This is like in a game of chess, you telling your opponent every move you were going to make before you made it. If you did this, you would be handing over control of the game to your opponent. If you head over to Substack, there is a post that aligns with this podcast episode. Over there, I include an example called the Sheriff's Dilemma. This example is best understood if it is read, rather than me attempting to explain it. As a result, the link for the Substack will be found in the episode description. But to provide a short introduction to the example, it is called the Sheriff's Dilemma. The sheriff is faced with an armed suspect. The armed suspect can be a civilian or a criminal. The suspect knows the sheriff's role, but the sheriff doesn't know whether the suspect is a civilian or a criminal. So the aspect of incomplete information in this game arises from the sheriff not knowing whether the suspect is a civilian or a criminal. Again, you can find this example over on the Substack. The Sheriff's Dilemma example shows that an actor with bad intentions and more information can cause serious damage. The example highlights the importance of controlling information as a means of power. However, in the example of the Sheriff's Dilemma, we can figure out probabilities and we can model this game quite successfully. When it comes to geopolitics, accurately calculating probabilities and modelling games with multiple actors is close to impossible. Next episode, we're going to discuss the impact that these characteristics of information have on geopolitics, mainly when it comes to predicting potential future geopolitical scenarios. Because there are so many players in geopolitics and predicting probabilities is incredibly difficult, how do we see geopolitical analysts attempt to predict potential scenarios that could emerge in the future? It's this that we'll discuss in next episode. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review on the podcast platform of your choice. I've been Dylan, and I'll talk to you next.